He wore the mask to stay hidden. Then, the spotlight found him anyway. Hi, and welcome to this Podfic recording of Turn It Up Till We Break. Written and read by me, DreamerAxie. This is a Percy Jackson fanfic where Nico di Angelo lives a double life as the masked rockstar Shade. And Will Solace is just a fan, until the music starts to hit a little too close to home. This chapter includes themes of identity conflict, performance anxiety, sensory overload, and emotional exhaustion. Please listen with care and take breaks if you need to. You're about to listen to Chapter 1, Becoming Shade. Let's begin. Nico took a deep breath as he put on the mask for the first time. The cool metal pressed against his skin, the sleek black edges almost sharp as they settled into place. The mask covered half his face, sharp and elegant, with intricate lines that shimmered faintly in the light. It felt like a weight on his soul, like he was hiding more than just his face. But the moment the mask settled into place, the magic stirred. The world shifted, the edges of his vision blurring for a moment, and then colors, vibrant, swirling, intense colors, filled his sight, a visual echo of his thoughts. He blinked, trying to adjust. The darkness of the mask had been replaced with something else. Everything felt more alive, and yet, somehow, distant. "So, what do you think? Any adjustments needed?" Leo's voice came from behind him, snapping Nico out of the momentary trance. Nico watched him in the mirror, Leo's grin wide as ever, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. Nico's fingers tightened around the edge of the mask. He wanted to take it off, but he wasn't sure why. Was it the fear of revealing himself, or the terror of actually becoming Shade? "No," Nico said, his voice steady, but still heavy with the weight of what was happening. He stared at his reflection for a moment longer, almost not recognizing the person staring back at him. "It's perfect." Leo nodded, eyes full of mischief. "You sure? Because I think the crowd's gonna eat this up." Nico's gaze flickered to his reflection. The way the mask seemed to change him, make him someone else. He didn't know whether to feel relief or terror. Shade was born out of necessity, but it felt like a part of him was slipping into darkness, something he'd only just begun to understand. He wasn't sure how long he could hide behind this mask, but for now, it felt like the only way to survive. "Guess we'll find out soon enough," Nico muttered, adjusting the mask one last time before stepping back. He adjusted the in-ears and got ready to step on stage, taking another deep breath as the lights dimmed. His boots hit the stage with a soft thud, steady and sure, marking the beginning of something he couldn't take back. The crowd buzz grew louder, but it felt distant, muffled, like Nico was floating outside of it all. Then, the drummer hit the first powerful beats. The stage lights flared, blinding him for a split second before they washed over him, and Shade took over. The first line hit him like a physical blow. His fingers gripped the mic stand, his body moving to the rhythm of the dark, pulsing music. The mask settled deeper into place, as if absorbing the very essence of his transformation. "I drove a stake right through her. I've tasted all her lies." The words came out of him with a sharp, venomous energy. They weren't just lyrics. This was the hard release of everything he'd been bottling up. The crowd reacted, a chorus of cheers and gasps, but Nico barely registered it. He wasn't Nico anymore. He was Shade, the version of himself that could shout the truth without fear. He let the music flood him, each note pulling him deeper into the performance. The drums intensified, the bass strumming beneath him, and Nico could feel it all in his chest, in his veins, like the whole world was vibrating with the sound. This was who Shade was. Powerful, untouchable, and filled with so much anger and darkness that he could barely keep it contained. With every verse he stepped further into the persona. The mask shielded him from everything he feared, from the weight of his past and the pain of his reality. He wasn't Nico, the outcast, the son of Hades. He was Shade, and tonight the world was going to hear him. Backstage, the sound of the crowd still thundered in Nico's ears, but all he could feel was the heat, the sweat clinging to his skin, the exhaustion setting in. His chest rose and fell with each breath, his heart racing still from the surge of adrenaline. He ripped the mask off, throwing it onto the table, and ran a hand through his damp hair, his finger catching on the strands. The hair felt too thick, too heavy. He was soaking, every muscle in his body screaming, but somehow it wasn't enough to quell the gnawing unease that tugged at his insides. The mask had worked. The persona had worked. But for how long? Leo, on the other hand, was practically bouncing around the room, his energy never once dimming from the chaos of the performance. His eyes were wide with excitement, his grin as bright as ever, practically glowing with enthusiasm. "You were amazing," said Leo, spinning around and giving Nico an exaggerated thumbs up. His voice was filled with awe, the same way he looked when he was watching a particularly impressive invention come to life. Nico gave a tired smile, but didn't quite reach his eyes. His fingers ached, his body felt like it had been put through a blender, and yet, all Leo seemed to care about was how well the performance had gone. "You think so?" Nico's voice was rough, still echoing the rasp of his performance. Leo nodded furiously, his hair bouncing with every movement. "Hell yeah! The crowd loved it! You nailed it, man! Shade's gonna be huge!" Nico leaned against the wall, trying to steady his breathing, but something still felt off. The mask had given him power, but it hadn't stopped the doubts from creeping in. Who was Shade? Really? Was he just hiding behind the mask, or was there something real in the persona? Leo bounced over to him, ignoring Nico's exhaustion. "You did great, though. I mean, seriously, I couldn't have asked for a better first performance. We've got something here." "We gotta get back before the harpies eat you for running around the green," Nico said, his voice dripping with sarcasm as he tried to push himself upright. Leo laughed, unfazed by the warning. "I'm sure they'll be too distracted by your performance to bother me." He paused, then added with a grin, "Besides, you're the one who looks like you might pass out from all that energy." Nico gave a half smile, his hand gripping the wall for balance. He wasn't sure how he was going to shadow travel after that performance. His body felt like he had just run a marathon, every muscle aching and tight from exhaustion. But the adrenaline was wearing off, and all he wanted to do was collapse into a pile somewhere. But they still had to get back to camp. "You sure you're okay?" Leo asked, his tone suddenly more serious, brows furrowed in concern. "You look like you're gonna pass out." Nico rubbed his eyes, letting out a long sigh. "I'm fine. I don't know how I'm gonna get back to camp. My head's spinning, and I'm already exhausted." He glanced over at Leo, trying to keep the frustration out of his voice. "I can barely focus right now." "We could take a cab back," Leo suggested, as if that was a perfectly normal thing to do. Nico shot him a sideways glance, his eyebrows twitching in disbelief. "And how are you going to explain to Chiron that you weren't in camp in the first place?" Leo grinned sheepishly, scratching the back of his neck. "Maybe I'll tell him I was on an important mission. You know, helping gods with something very classified." Nico snorted. "Yeah, sure. And then I'll tell him I'm just gonna shadow travel the hell out of here. No big deal. Nothing to worry about." Leo pouted. Okay, fine, I get it. Shadow travel's probably a bit much after that crazy performance." He paused, looking at Nico with a mix of concern and thoughtfulness. "But hey, if it makes you feel better, I'll make sure no one sees you. You know, go all creepy with your shadow stuff." Nico rolled his eyes. "The creepy part is the least of my problems right now, Leo. I'm not even sure I can make it to camp without crashing. But the longer we stand here, the worse it's gonna get. So get over here before I leave without you." Leo's expression shifted from playful to serious in an instant, though his usual grin never really disappeared. Okay, you're the boss." He stepped forward, positioning himself beside Nico, ready to go. Nico glanced at him, still not quite sure how to feel about the whole shade thing. But the last thing he needed right now was more questions, or the potential embarrassment of shadow traveling on shaky legs. "You sure you can keep up with me?" Nico asked, though it was more to distract himself than anything. "Oh, I can keep up just fine," Leo said, raising an eyebrow with a mischievous gleam in his eye. "Just make sure you don't trip over your own shadow while you're at it." Nico gave him a half smile despite himself, shaking his head. You're unbelievable. Yep, but you'll love it, Leo quipped, following Nico's lead as he prepared to shadow travel. With one last glance around the room, Nico braced himself, reaching out for Leo's arm. The darkness seemed to swirl around them, but Nico wasn't sure if it was from exhaustion or the gravity of what just happened on stage. All right, let's just go before I fall over. And with that, the shadows wrapped around them, pulling them towards Camp Half-Blood. Thank you for listening to Chapter 1 of Turn It Up Till We Break. This story is a part of the DreamerAxie library. Some stories take the stage with lights and thunder. Others hide behind the mask and whisper the truth through the mic. If this one struck a chord, if it echoed something inside you, I'm so glad you were here to hear it. This was written with care for moments when you feel like the spotlight's too bright or the silence is too loud. And maybe, just maybe, it finds you in the middle of your own performance and reminds you you're not alone in the wings. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. Catch you after the show.